Testing, 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 testing. '93. Welcome to the live stream. Amon Ashranu, The Secrets of Chaos. What's up, Lord Shu? What's up, D Strutted? I appreciate everybody for tuning in. So let me play some background music, give people time to come in, and we'll get right to it. 1 second here.
Hold up. I go get that shit on my seat, bro. Mobbing in the Bentley, smoking more rocks. Pocket full of motherfucking blue guap. Half an ounce in my Gucci tube socks. For the summertime, got a new drop. Trapper slash rapper slash bad bitch snatcher, baby. 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 Trapper slash rapper slash bad bitch snatcher, baby mama mad. She said you live like a bachelor. So what? Sold £100 and gave 10% to the pastor. Church. Keep going ladder. They mad, make them matter. Told my son when I'm gone, you gon' be a rich little bastard. Pointers on me hitting, leave a dizzy. All my old bitches feeling salty, yeah. Am I talking about why you dog me, yeah. But I still miss you, can you call me, yeah. I heard ain't shit changed, that you still ballin', yeah. Used to bust for scripts for me at Walgreens. Smuggling narcotics was my calling. Hey. Foes on the Mercedes, that's major. 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 Gang going crazy, that's major. Millions on the table, that's major. Dirt into diamonds, that's major. You searching for fame. I became a superstar in the dope game. Found out you a hater, I can't look at you the same. She said, can she take a picture with my chain? Got twin sisters, call them yin yang. I wish I wouldn't have fucked that bitch, she insane. Alexander McQueen on me, ain't got a stain. Turn to a club, my life ain't never been the same. Foes on the Mercedes, that's major. Gang going crazy, that's major. Millions on the table, that's major. Turn dirt into diamonds, that's major. Foes on the Mercedes, that's major. Whole gang going crazy, that's major. Millions on the table, that's major. Turn dirt into diamonds, that's major. House full of bitches like flavor. The cunts say my dog come from count paper route the gang, and bitch we a label. New Glock with a laser, yeah. I let you meet your maker. Go out to Jamaica with my motherfucking rosters, yeah. I'm moving with my motherfucking shotters, yeah. I walk in my motherfucking car, yeah. Pistol in the motherfucking party. Foes on the Mercedes, that's major. Whole gang going crazy, that's major. Millions on the table, that's major. Dirt into diamonds, that's major.
All right. We in here. So let me keep playing this. I'm just gonna play this in the background, but I'm gonna alter it so it doesn't disturb, my words. So give me 1 second here. I may need to slow it down a little bit. But we're gonna keep the energy going nonetheless. Let's make sure. All right. All right. Yeah, still playing that chop not slop. That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? We're not new fans over here. You know what I mean? We've always been on this chop and screw shit. You know what I mean? For those who've been around long enough to know. Yeah, definitely. Rest in paradise. So you guys usually know, I don't do any of these things on screen, such as smoking and all these things. I used to in the ancient times. But it is a special occasion. So I'm just preparing the ritual here. And I don't say it's a special occasion, due to, what's going on in the hip hop space. That is a part of it, of course. So I definitely wanted to give my respects from that perspective. However, this day is also my solar return. So I figured, why not? Let me channel the spirits in real time. Cause I haven't really been doing that. That's why when you guys see the screen, we about to go real deep today. I don't usually read this stuff. I don't usually put any of this stuff out, but today is a special day. So we gonna go no holds barred here. Unless I'm gonna do everything in real time. Again, I appreciate everybody for tuning in and watching. I appreciate everybody, hopefully your Scorpio season isn't too devastating. Hopefully your Scorpio season has been, we understand the intensity of Scorpio season, so I'm pretty sure everyone is going through some type of intensity on some form or fashion. But nonetheless, we continue on. I appreciate, the birthday wishes, the solar return wishes. Because I am the third 18th in my family. What I mean by that is my grandfather, my mother were also born on the day of the 18th, not necessarily in the month of November. So basically it's 3 generations of the 18th degree, which we know to be the sun plus Saturn equals Mars, for those who follow along with the equations, right? So I say, for no other reason, just hit the like button, leave a comment. You know what I mean? Definitely support the channel in any way, shape, or form that you choose. If you've been rocking with me, if you enjoy the content, if I have provided you any type of satisfaction to the psychosexual minds, and I appreciate the support. Because again, you guys, I don't be putting my cash app on here. I don't be doing all that extra stuff. You know what I mean? I try to keep all that separate. If you want to support me, you do it on your own. I'm not going to blast that out there. But nonetheless, again, I'm here. We're going to make this happen. Like I said, I'm doing all this in real time. I'm cooking up I'm going to roll a joint here. Activate the spirit, and we're going to go right into this work. So again, just doing this for a tribute. Again, this Scorpio energy is always heavy. I got a full bottle of tequila I haven't even cracked open. Let me see if I can Here it is. Just show you guys. A full bottle of tequila. I ain't even open it up. That's just how I've been feeling. I'm not even in a celebratory mood right now, if we want to keep it 100. See, I'm talking with this deep ass ASMR voice right now. But nonetheless, once again, we're going to continue to put out the information nonetheless. If for no other reason alone, is to keep the hip hop culture alive. And again, the hip hop culture goes way beyond music. So whenever we lose one of the greats, you know, someone who, you know, came from the underground, from the inferno, you know, it's always devastating when you know, someone who is sincere, you know, is taken from us. So all it does is put a spark in those of us who remain here, you know, to continue on with our path. I appreciate that, Callie. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is a little harder than usual. You know, I'm not on camera doing this, so this is just a bit weird. Just give me a second here. Again, you know, I try to be civilized on this YouTube. You know, I try to be as professional and civilized as I can. But again, today is a special occasion, so I'm going to try to manifest a more intimate form of myself, so you guys can get a feel of the energy. You know, also, you know, the lunar eclipse is occurring, or will occur. Give me 1 second. This is crazy right now. I was going to put some wax on this. I think this is taking a little bit too long. I don't want to take up too much time here. But, you know, here. Got a little wax here, so I think I'm going to lace this blunt. Again, this is definitely not what I do on a daily basis. But, you know, again, I just have to show and prove the reality of these matters. So I'm going to go into the void. I'm going to go into the ether. Because usually I'm sober. You know, lately, the content I have been producing, I have been sober-minded. I may smoke a little something later, but, you know, I try to stay civilized. And Burn and Chaos here, we definitely about to talk about the chaos. That's exactly why we're here. So I'm glad you guys this is going to be a jewel. You're not going to get this from nowhere else. I keep telling you guys that this is going to be exclusive. You're not going to get this from anywhere else. I'm going to break down some very complex things, but I wanted to give some documentation as well, so it's not just my words, you know, so we can have some outside words, and I can essentially give a little bit more commentary, you know, than just voicing my own opinion about things. So we're going to travel a little bit outside of the box, you know, to see some other opinions, you know, versus me just speaking about these things. So hopefully it helps us to arrive at greater conclusions, especially when it comes to the chaos. Because I believe this one little chapter, it's only a couple pages here. I'm not going to read it. This is just one chapter of a book. So, but this one chapter is very, very pivotal to the understanding of what we consider chaos. And I feel this chapter does justice to what chaos truly is versus what we think it is. So I'm definitely going to demonstrate that in just a second here. 1 second, sorry about that. All right. And again, you know, I wanted to do the live stream a little bit earlier, because you guys usually know, you know, I do the live streams pretty early, but I just wanted to center my energy first, you know, gather my thoughts, get my energy together, so that this is a positive experience, and you know, I don't just, you know, come on here ranting and raving about, you know, the current events and everything that's going on. So that's why, you know, I didn't speak on Yon Dolph yesterday when it occurred. I'm like, let everyone else speak on it, you know, let everyone else, you know, get their emotions out, you know, express their feelings. Then I'll come back on the flip side and give the reality. So Well, I'm almost done here. I apologize for this. So it's not planned, but I feel it is, again, necessary. So you guys know what's really going on here. So again, let me lace this joint. So if I get a little twisted, it is what it is. I don't know what my reaction will be. Again, I usually don't drink. Again, I may smoke a joint or two, but I'm not necessarily a drinker. So when that alcohol gets in my body, who knows? Especially the tequila. That's what I realized. I'm not a drinker at all. However, tequila changed my life. This is I had to learn this on my own. Because I was tasting vodka and all those things. What's the other one? Vodka and whiskey and all these things. However, when I discovered tequila, which was a gift, I wasn't necessarily looking for her tequila. She came to me. Oh, so man, try this out. Oh, okay, sure. Let me see. 1 second. I'm trying to be as organized as possible here. Let me do this. Fuck it. And I appreciate everyone's patience. I know me. I know time is of the essence. I understand that. I'm trying to move as fast as I can, but I appreciate everyone's patience. I just want to make sure that we are fully into the spirit for this particular session. So I will use myself as a vessel, because I never do these things without contacting the spirit. So I never light a joint, never hit the alcohol. I don't do anything that will alter my state of mind without first summoning the spirit. That's just my personal preference. That way I am able to establish a direction. So that's why I have the seal of Lucifer right above me. So if right above me, you should see the seal of Lucifer, if you're wondering why that's there. Because as we know, well, maybe we don't know. Maybe it's time for us to learn. Nonetheless. All right. We ready to go now? Ready to go now? All right. Nothing too crazy. Bow. Keep it real uniform. Do a little French joint. Roll a little French joint, and we good to go. All right. So with that, let us bring forth the energy of Lucifer. Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna move this mic out the way. Give me 1 second. Let me move this mic out the way. All right. Okay. I guess I don't need to move it out the way. All right. In the name of Lucifer, it is what it is, right? Again, I don't want to offend anybody. If anybody's uncomfortable, you have the freedom to, mute the mic or whatever. I don't know. In the name of Lucifer, right? It is what it is. All right. In the name of the Horn God, in the name of the Horn Shaman, in the name of Beneb, the Jet, and in the name of the Baphomet, may we open up the portals to the Inferno so that we can understand the secrets of the chaos, and may understanding result. All right, so I'm not necessarily just gonna sit and smoke in you guys' face. We're gonna get right into it. I'm just gonna be smoking at the same time, trying to multitask. We'll see how effective that is. All right. Let us read. Let me put this right here so I can see. Okay, what does it say? Liber Lux. It says Liber Lux. Being the initiate, third degree syllabus of the magical order of the Illuminates, and the Danta Theros of white magic. The subject is divided in accordance with the schema shown in figure 3. And we discuss the theoretical aspects of chaos, kia, duality, aether, and mind. So essentially in this lesson we will be exploring what is chaos, what is kia, what is duality, what is aether, and what is mind. Now, kia is probably a word, many people have never heard. We're more familiar with chi or kundalini or the life force. But another way of saying it is the kia. Duality describes humanity's usual condition. Happiness exists only because of misery, pain because of comfort, good because of evil, yang because of yin, black because of white, birth because of death, and existence because of non-existence. All phenomena must be paired, as the senses are only equipped to perceive differences. The thinking mind has the property of splitting everything it encounters into two, as it is a dualistic thing itself. So before we go any further, we want to make sense of what we just said. So if we read again, it says duality describes humanity's usual condition. So when it's speaking of humanity's usual condition, this is basically the 3D matrix that we exist in. And most people exist within duality, even though they may not understand the phenomena itself, because as we see, the thinking mind or the logical mind or the left brain has the property of splitting everything it encounters into two. So where do we learn about this dualistic mind from? What is the science of the dualistic mind? Well, that is the science of the clip-off. That is the science of the tree of death. That is the science of the twin god. So this twin god comes from the clip-offic philosophy of the tree of death. As the tree of life speaks about the single god or the singular god, the singular deity. However, the clip-offic energy represents the twin soul or the twin spirit, whatever you would like to call it. This is a diagram. We don't have to necessarily focus on this. We're going to continue reading. Okay, I'm going to put this down for now. I don't need too much right now. Yet there is a part of man which is of a singular nature, although the mind is unable to perceive it as such. Man considers himself or herself, to make it equal, a center of will and a center of perception. Will and perception are not separate, but only appear so to the mind. So, most of the time, as we know, we view will and perception as two different things. For the alchemists, we will understand perception to represent the third eye and the will to represent the solar plexus, if we want to speak on the 7 chakras. So we have the solar plexus and the third eye, but essentially we have 7 chakras, but they are all connected, even though they appear to be separate, but they are actually one complete center. Not center, system. They are one complete system. They just appear to separate because of the thinking mind we possess. So everything splits, everything appears to be this or that. But that is just the perception or the projection. But let us continue reading. So will and perception are not separate, but only appear so to the mind. The unity which appears to the mind to exert the twin functions of will and perception is called kia by magicians. So now we have a definition of Kia. So we had a definition of duality, which is the usual human experience. Now we have defined Kia, which once again, the unification of will and perception. So when will and perception are expressing themselves as one force, this is what we call Kia. Again, a word that is not even really used in the mainstream at all. So that's how we know that this is some underground shit that we're reading right now. Sometimes it is called spirit or soul or life force instead. So we know what we're talking about. So what do we call the life force? The Kundalini, the Chi, the Qigong. Kia cannot be experienced directly because it is the basis of consciousness or experience. Very powerful statement. Let's read it again. Kia cannot be experienced directly because it is the basis of consciousness or experience, and it has no fixed qualities which the mind can latch onto. So when we're talking about the Kia, when we're talking about the Kundalini, when we're talking about the life force, this is the basis of consciousness. So our basis of consciousness is the life force, is the Kia, is the Kundalini. That is the basis of consciousness. And this is why when we're talking about the rising of the Kundalini, we're talking about the rising of consciousness or the rising of your experience, which has no fixed qualities that the mind can latch on to. And that's why every chakra is symbolized as a planet to take us beyond fixed qualities. So we can say, okay, the solar plexus represents the will and the third eye represents perception. However, again, it does not have fixed qualities. So because it does not have fixed qualities, now we can go from a chakra point to a planetary point to an alchemical metal. And that's why we have all these different systems coming together as one science, because it is very elusive. So all of those things can be true at the same time. Let us continue. Kia is the consciousness. It is the elusive I, which confers self-awareness, but does not seem to consist of anything itself. And again, I'm going to read these things over so that we understand what's being said. Kia is the consciousness. It is the elusive I. So this is where this elusive energy comes from. That's why the occult is very elusive, because the occult is the science or the system in which we utilize to navigate the Kia. Kia is a consciousness. It is the elusive I, which confers self-awareness, but does not seem to consist of anything itself. So that means our idea of self-awareness doesn't really consist of anything itself. This is why it's possible to have a ego death. You're just dissolving what you think was there, and it was really nothing there at the same time. Or at the end of the day, we had created a fabrication. Our ego is a fabrication. So an ego death is you dissolving the fabrication in which was created, which changes your experience. In order for us to change our experience, we must manipulate our consciousness. In order to manipulate our consciousness, we must manipulate our Kia. So from the Kia to the consciousness to the experience. Kia can sometimes be felt as ecstasy or inspiration, but it is deeply buried in the dualistic mind. So that ecstasy we feel when we experience an orgasm or intense happiness or even sadness or inspiration, divine revelations, epiphanies, all of these things are the results of the Kia, but it is still buried within the dualistic mind. So again, we cannot perceive it directly. It must be split in order for us to even perceive it. That's why we see the two serpents. That's why when you see this seal of Lucifer, you see the two serpents by the V. You see two serpents. This is that split energy. Again, this is why I have that symbol up there, because it symbolizes all these things that are being spoken of. But of course, most people don't know these things. But you see, as we read these things, it becomes more obvious. It is mostly trapped in the aimless wanderings of thought and in identification with experience and in that cluster of opinions about ourselves called ego. So that's basically what I just explained. These aimless wanderings, this, competitive mind we think we have, just all this clusterfuck of ideas that we think we adhere to, all this is the ego. So essentially what separates us is the ego. All these is just aimless wanderings of thought and identification with experience. Or we think we're a certain person because we have a certain name and we're doing a certain thing. We have a certain rank, yada, yada, yada. So essentially we get lost in these aimless wanderings. This is the result of the dualistic mind. Let us continue. Magic is concerned with giving the Kia more freedom and flexibility, and with providing means by which it can manifest its occult power. So now we essentially have a definition of magic. So all magic is giving your Kia, your Kundalini, your life force more freedom and flexibility by providing means in which it can manifest its occult power. And we understand occult means hidden power or veiled power. So all magic is expanding your Kia or your life force, utilizing the occult, the hidden science of what we call the nothingness, which is full of everything. Let us continue. Okay. Kia is capable of occult power because it is a fragment of the great life force of the universe. So the reason the Kundalini, the Kia, has the ability to manifest occult power because it's a fragment of the great life force of the universe. So this is the as above, so below. This is what that means. As above, so below, the law of correspondence. So the Kundalini or the Kia that travels through our chakra system, it's the same life force that travels through the universe. And we understand the human body to be a miniature universe. So that Kia or that life force, the same way it travels through the macro universe, it also travels through the micro universe via the human experience. But we see this is just a fragment of the great life force. Let us continue. Consider the world of apparent dualisms we inhabit. The mind views a picture of this world in which everything is double. So the mind doubles everything naturally. But we're not taught this. We literally have people thinking that they have a problem because they see in doubles, not necessarily physically seeing in doubles, but their mind works like this. They have a dualistic mind thinking as doubles. This is a natural phenomenon. But you see, natural phenomenon gets taken advantage of. Again, having us thinking that there's something wrong with us, and all that does is inhibit further our Kundalini, our Kia. And again, the magic is all about giving more freedom and flexibility to the Kia. A thing is said to exist and exert certain properties. So this is very important. So not only does something exist, it also contains properties, or it represents a projection. And this is what they are calling being and doing. And this is what most of us have, no idea about, because we're so caught upon doing. We gotta get up, get to the money, get to the bag. We gotta go here, go there, do this, do that. We gotta be busy, stay busy, doing. But then when it's time to be, it's hard for us to do that. It's hard for people to sleep. It's hard for people to dream. It's hard for people to access their imagination. Those are results or examples of being, when you can just sit in a meditative position and utilize your imagination and rise your kundalini. Right? So because there's a difference between being and doing, and we understand the world operates off of doing. However, being is where the magic occurs, because you have to be to exercise your kia. You have to be to exercise your magic. Because again, this is not just based on doing a bunch of things or doing more with your time. We just simply have to be, because that state of beingness is a state of timelessness. Time stops when we are just being who we are. So all this saying, just be yourself, this is just an example of being. You must be. We're so focused on doing. I got to do this, I got to do that. Got to appear this way, got to appear that way. It's just all about doing. Now we have to evolve into the being and to understand the differences. They are not the same. There's a difference between being and doing, but they are also connected. There are differences, but they are also connected. This calls for the concepts of cause and effect, or causality. So the law of cause and effect, this is essentially what they're getting at. So cause and effect essentially is being and doing. From beingness, you do. Cause and effect. The effect of doing anything comes from being. So your sense of being will reflect in your doing. So anyone who just has to constantly do, they have no idea how to be. And those of us that be, we must master the doing, because we must master both aspects. Every phenomenon is seen to be caused by some previous thing. So essentially the laws of the universe is nothing just happens by coincidence or accident. So all the time we say, okay, that was a coincidence, or that's a strange happening. The strangest of happenings are always based upon a previous result or a previous thing. So nothing is haphazard. However, this description cannot explain how everything exists in the first place, or how one thing finally causes another. Obviously, things have originated and do continue to make each other happen. The thing responsible for the origin and continued action of events is called chaos by magicians. So now we finally come upon the chaos. So because we have laid out the previous format, now we have a foundation of what the chaos represents. Now that we understand there's a difference between magic and kia and chaos and duality. Remember, the definitions from above was duality, kia, chaos, and beyond. So I'm going to read it one more time. Obviously, things have originated and do continue to make each other happen. The thing responsible for the origin and continued action of events is called chaos. So the origin and continued action of events is called chaos. So this is completely different than what we think chaos is, because if we just take chaos on face value, we think it's something crazy. Chaos is the opposite of order. But in this case, we see that chaos actually represents the divine order. It is not misorder, it is divine order. So this gives us a proper foundation of what chaos is, so that we don't have the perspective that chaos is something negative or bad or just out of place. This is actually putting everything into place and continuing the action from a previous result. It can also It could as well be called God or Tao. But the name chaos is virtually meaningless and free from the childish and anthropomorphic. There we go. Anthropomorphic ideas of religion. There we go. So essentially the reason why they're using chaos at all is to detach religious ideas from it. Because we understand how muddy it can get once we start adding religious concepts into the conversation or into magical phenomenon. So essentially the reason why we're using chaos is to separate ourselves from religious philosophy so that we can be more scientific and mathematical and move beyond that way of life. Continuing on, chaos is also the force which adds increasingly complexity to the universe by spawning structures which were not inherent to its component parts. Now that is very powerful. Let me read it again. Chaos is also the force which adds increasing complexity to the universe by spawning structures which were not inherently in its component parts. So that means chaos has the ability to manifest new components that were not in the original blueprint or foundation. So essentially you can say the universe is comprised of, you can say, stardust and all of these particles, right? But the chaos is able to manifest particles that actually did not exist. You can say in the beginnings of a star, you have certain components. You have certain components that make up the existence of a star. However, when you introduce chaos, chaos can introduce new elements to the picture that was not a part of the original format. So it is through the chaos or magic that we are able to introduce new components that were not a part of the blueprint. The blueprint just represents our DNA. So this blueprint is our DNA, our genes. So if we look at it from the body, the human body, like, okay, chaos allows us to manipulate our body, mind, and soul force. It is through the chaos that we can put things there that was not a part of our structure. So we all have a DNA code. However, through the chaos, you can manipulate that DNA code and add components that were not a part of your original blueprint. That is the purposes of chaos. Let us continue. It is the force which has caused life to evolve itself out of dust. And it is currently most concentratedly manifest in the human life force, or Kia, where it is the source of consciousness. So we had already came to the conclusion that the Kia is the source of consciousness or experience. Now we have an extra component to that. So let me read that one more time. It is the force that has caused life to evolve itself out of dust, and it is currently mostly concentratedly manifest in the human life force, or Kia, where it is the source of consciousness. So essentially what causes life to evolve, or as we like to call evolution sparks from the chaos. So now the chaos is actually connected to evolution. So not only is chaos connected to order and not misorder, chaos is also connected to evolution. So chaos is order and evolution, the exact opposite of what we would think chaos represents. And anyone else who's telling you anything different about chaos clearly are not telling you the reality of it. Let us continue. Kia is but a small fragment of the great life force of the universe, which contains the two impulses to immerse itself in duality and to escape from duality. So essentially the Kia, which we now know to be the consciousness, immerses itself in duality and escapes from duality. And this is why we have the two serpents. So when we are looking at the two serpents, whether it's on the Baphomet or the seal of Lucifer or anywhere we see the two serpents, the Kundalini, the two serpents of the Kundalini, these serpents represent our consciousness moving in and out of duality. So consciousness has the ability to move in and out of duality. So whenever consciousness moves into duality, it splits, it divides, and when it escapes from duality, it becomes singular. All this is the process of the Kia, or consciousness. Let us continue. It will continuously reincarnate until the first impulse is exhausted. The second impulse is the root of the mystical quest, the union of the liberated spirit with the great spirit. Very powerful statement. So we have understand the Kia, or the consciousness, it can move in and out of duality, split its consciousness, and then become singular. So one of the serpents, or the first impulse, is continuously reincarnating. So the first serpent is continuously reincarnating. The second serpent, as we are seeing here, is the union of the liberated spirit with the great spirit. Basically your universal spirit with your personal spirit. So to unite your basically what we call enthalema, the true will. So essentially to activate your true will and knowledge and conversation with the holy guardian angel. Right? This is just saying it in a different way. So one of the serpents, once again, represent a continuous reincarnation ability. Then the second serpent connects our lower spirit with our higher spirit, or our lower soul with our higher soul, whichever way you want to call it. So they both serve different purposes, and we see what they do when they combined. To the extent that the Kia can become one with chaos, it can extend its will and perception into the universe to accomplish magic. One more time. To the extent that the Kia can become one with chaos. So now we're combining Kia and chaos. See, because we have laid the foundation down, now we understand what they're talking about. So what they're saying is to extend your consciousness so that it becomes one with the chaos, which we now know to represent order and evolution. So essentially to order and evolve your consciousness to unify the Kia with the chaos, which is essentially extending your will and your perception, which becomes your true will. This is essentially how magic is accomplished. So you can say magic equals Kia plus chaos. If we want to work with equations, magic equals Kia plus chaos, consciousness plus order and evolution. So again, as I'm saying, is you're not gonna get this anywhere else. Like we were just going straight without any fabrications, without any fluff talk, without any extra shit. This is just the pure science and mathematics of what it is, irregardless of what your spiritual system or religious beliefs are. Continuing on. Between chaos and ordinary matter, and between Kia and the mind, there exists a realm of half-formed substance called aether. Now they're introducing us into aether. So you see how they're building the blocks in order to help us to understand here. So you see they're still using the words, they're still using Kia, they're still using chaos, they're using aether. But once we have the definitions behind these principles, you see we can break it down into more simpler forms to have a better understanding of what's being said here. So essentially the aether, or as we call ether, the aether is between the Kia and the chaos. In other words, between your consciousness and the order of your consciousness. So between the chaos and the Kia, the Kundalini and the ability of the two serpents to evolve and reincarnate. So your consciousness can evolve as well as reincarnate. One of the serpents are helping us to evolve or connect between the lower spirit and the greater spirit. And the other serpent is continuously creating that reincarnation energy, basically to reincarnate our spirit or our life force to renew itself. So one of the serpents are constantly renewing themselves or shedding the skin of the snake. So one of the serpents are constantly shedding their skin, while the other is standing upright, seeking evolution and order. So now it's introducing us to the aether, which exists between the Kia and the chaos. It is dualistic matter, but of a very tedious or tenuous. There we go, tenuous, probabilistic. Here we go with this. They're using these terms. Let me go back. I want to say these terms properly. It is dualistic matter of a very tenuous, probabilistic nature. So they're getting real fancy with these words. It consists of all the possibilities which chaos throws out, which have not yet become solid realities. So once again, the aether, it is dualistic matter, so it is split. And it's very probabilistic. So it's essentially the law of probability, for the mathematicians out there, the law of probability, the law of chance. So aether is essentially based upon the law of chance. It consists of all the possibilities which chaos throws out. Because remember, chaos throws out. So how is chaos throwing out? Remember, chaos is all about order and evolution. So chaos throws out everything which has not become a solid reality. So essentially the aether is all possibilities before it reaches the chaos. Because once it reached the chaos, now it is moving towards a singular direction. It knows essentially what it is seeking. So your consciousness knows what it is seeking to evolve and to order itself. So that aether is that infinite possibility before the chaos impacts it. So before it is impacted by the chaos, it exists as aether, or all possibilities. It is the medium by which the non-existent chaos translates itself into real effects. So how the chaos goes from what we can say, like what is the term we use? The law of attraction and manifesting. Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. The law of manifestation, right? So this is what manifestation is. Again, we just throw out the new agey stuff, but this is essentially what it's speaking about. So to bring something from non-existence to real effects, it is through the chaos, but the medium is the aether. So aether becomes the medium that the chaos translates itself into real effects. So aether or ether is the medium that chaos use from something becoming, you can these terms. I'm gonna use antimatter and matter because I'm trying not to use the same terms. So the difference between something being physical and not physical is whether it has been touched by chaos, because chaos makes something from non-existent to real by utilizing the mediumship of the aether. It forms a sort of backdrop out of which real events and real thoughts materialize. We're still talking about the aether, so they're saying aether is the backdrop in which real events and real thoughts materialize. Because etheric events are only partially evolved into dualistic existence. They may not have a precise location in space or time. So now we're going into space and time. Let me read it again. Because etheric events are only partially evolved into dualistic existence, and the reason they're saying that is because previously we established aether is all about infinite possibilities. So all of these infinite possibilities are partially evolved into the dualistic experience where the energy splits. So essentially the aether is partially split. It's not fully split, it is partially split. Because they do not have a precise location in space or time. So essentially it exists in your mind, because your mind does not exist in a certain space or time. However, they are real. They just don't embody space and time. They are not real in the sense of space and time, but they are real in accordance to the aether. And so it does not necessarily affect the physical plane. So what it's saying is the aether is partially evolved into a dualistic experience, but it does not necessarily affect the physical plane. So the aether, you could say, is in that mid space between antimatter and matter, but it does not yet affect the physical plane. However, it is the backdrop of the physical plane, as we call our imagination or art. Art is the backdrop of the physical plane. Okay. What does it say? It is from the bazaar. And what does it say? Man, my mind is blank right now. Let me start over. Okay, let me start over. Going crazy here. All right. It is from the bizarre and indeterminate nature of the etheric plane that chaos gets its name. For chaos cannot be known directly. So now it's giving us extra information about the chaos. So it's telling us chaos cannot be known directly, only indirectly, because it exists in an indeterminate space, in an indeterminate nature. So it cannot be known directly, because remember, the chaos is all about order and evolution. But we can only perceive that order and evolution through a split mind. The dualism, we can only see the chaos through the dualism. So we're not seeing the singularity of the chaos, we are only seeing the duality of the chaos. All right, let us continue. From the etheric realm of nascent possibility, only what we call sensible, casual, probable, or normal events usually come into existence. Yet, as sinners of Kia or chaos ourselves, we can sometimes call very unlikely coincidence or unexpected events into existence by manipulating the aether. Very, very powerful statement there. So now we're going even further. So now we're saying as sinners of Kia or chaos ourselves. So us as human vessels, human beings, spirit beings in the human experience, we are sinners of Kia, which is a life force in chaos, order and evolution. So we are sinners of the life force and how that life force orders itself and evolves itself and reincarnates itself. And because we are chaotic sinners of life force, we can sometimes call very unlikely coincidences or unexpected events into existence by manipulating the aether. So through the manipulation of the aether, which springs forth the chaos, because remember, the aether is the medium in which the chaos use. So you can say the active principle is the chaos. So chaos is the active principle. Chaos is seeking to evolve in order. And the medium in which the chaos is navigating through is the aether. So, because we are centers of the chaos and the Kia, we can manipulate the aether itself. So through the manipulation of the aether, this is how we bring forth events into our lives that were otherwise very unlikely to occur. Next, such is magic, which we clearly see. Now, okay, magic, manipulation of the aether, which then stimulates the chaos to order and evolve the Kia, which is the consciousness. Even the physical scientists have begun to blunder into the etheric with their discoveries of the quantum indeterminacy and vital processes of subatomic matter. So essentially, this is what they're saying is quantum physics and quantum mechanics. Because when we begin to study the quantum world, now this is where we find that particles behave as waves and waves can behave as particles. They no longer have a fixed expression. This is what we learn in the quantum sciences. So we learn, like, okay, that it can either manifest as a particle or a wave, instead of on the physical plane, it's either one or the other. They are not necessarily, particles will behave like particles. Waves are going to behave like waves. They don't behave like each other. But on a quantum level, they do. Well, what's up, Mary? What's up? Next, it is the aether which surrounds the central core of the life force. So now it's taking it a step further. So we understood aether to be the medium of chaos, but now they're saying the aether which surrounds the central core of the life force. The life force is the Kia. So not only does the aether represent the medium in which chaos works, the chaos works through the aether, but the aether also surrounds the central core of the life force, which is the Kia. That sounds a lot like gray matter, but we don't have to speak about that now. So the central core of the life force, or the Kia, or consciousness, the central core of consciousness is surrounded by aether. So because your central core of consciousness is surrounded by aether, it only makes sense that if you are able to manipulate the aether, you will manipulate your consciousness. Its normal function is as a Kia thought intermediary, yet its properties are so infinitely mutable that almost anything can be accomplished with it. Thought gives it shape and Kia gives it power. Another very, very powerful statement here. All right. Now what it's saying is, because now it's talking about the Kia and the thought. Remember, the thought mind splits everything into dualism, and the Kia is the consciousness. So Kia thought is consciousness and dualism, a dualistic consciousness. Yet its properties are so infinitely mutable. Mutable just means changeable, because we know about them for those of us who study astrology. And of course, if you're here, you know that I'm all over astrology. It's ridiculous. So if we're talking about the mutable signs are energies that move in multiple directions. So mutable is energy moving in multiple directions. Yet its properties are so infinitely mutable that almost anything can be accomplished with it. So now it's talking about the aether. Almost anything can be accomplished through the manipulation of the aether. Because thought gives it shape and Kia, or consciousness, gives it power. So what gives the aether power is the Kia, or your consciousness. So your consciousness gives the aether power, and thought gives it shape. So we think to give shape, and then we use our life force to give it power. And again, this is concerning the aether itself, which surrounds the central core of the life force, or the Kia itself. Thus, our will and perception extended into areas of time and space beyond the physical limitations of the material body. Now we're talking about astral dynamics. So now we're saying like, okay, well, through the aether, now you can also go beyond the material body. So this is talking about astral body dynamics. Now this is Eastern occultism, the Siddhi powers, so on and so forth. So will and perception extend into areas of time and space beyond the physical limitations of the material body. So that means you can take your will and your perception, aka your true will, beyond the physical limitations of the material body. So it is through your will and perception that we transcend the material body. Again, you see, we're breaking down these concepts that we have heard for the last 10 years and beyond, for those who have been a part of this longer than that. But now we're getting it in a mathematical, scientific format so that we don't get confused. Because if I was reading this from an Eastern occult book or a Western occult book, like it would be too filled with deities and rituals and all this stuff that it just throws us off. But the science and the mathematics keeps us centered so that we can understand the dynamics of the hidden spaces of reality. This is the last part. It is the very mutability of the etheric which has given rise to such a bewildering variety of magical activity and supportive thought forms all over the universe. The differences, however, are only superficial. When stripped of local symbolism and terminology, all systems show a remarkable uniformity of method. This is because all systems ultimately derive from the tradition of shamanism. I'll read it one more time. It is a very... Okay, hold on. It is the very mutability of the etheric which has given rise to such a bewildering variety of magical activity and supportive thought forms all over the universe. The differences, however, are only superficial, meaning there is no difference between, you can say, the Christian, the Muslim, the Jew, the Mormon, the Sufi, the Gnostic, so on and so forth. All of the differences between these religions are only superficial. Because once you strip them, as I was just saying, once you strip the local symbolism and terminology, so now we're not talking about, okay, this deity represents this deity represents that, because if you're not a part of that spiritual system, it's just going to be, you're not going to get to the science and mathematics. You're going to, get stuck on mythology. You're going to get stuck on terminology instead of the magical system itself. This is because all systems ultimately derive from the tradition of shamanism. So what they're saying is the foundation of all this is shamanism. This is what the shaman does. This is the job of the shaman, to understand these sciences: the science of duality, the science of thought, the science of chaos, the science of Kia, and the science of the aether. So we essentially have broken down the whole science of shamanism in just a couple pages here, because we have removed all of the fluff. Once we remove all of the fluff, we can read and understand things for how they are and not get lost in the translations. Now, the last thing I'm going to show here is the timeline. I wasn't even going to show this originally, but I'll show it anyway so people can understand the timeline of magic. Here we go. Here's the timeline. This is exclusive. You're not going to find it anywhere else. This is the timeline of magic. So we see shamanism is at the very top. From shamanism, we go to tantra or tantra. From tantra, we go to Taoism. If we go to the right, if we go to the left, we go to the Egyptian/Babylonian energies, which then leads to Gnosticism. Then from Tantra, we go to Sufism. So essentially, you can put everybody into a category because everybody is either one of these things in some form or fashion, whether they know it or not. Everyone is practicing some form of something on this list here. Something on this, everybody is a part of something on this list. So if you understand this and you understand the timeline of magic, you cannot be fooled because you know where everyone is coming from. Okay, I see, oh, you getting that from the Egyptian part. You getting that from Taoism. You getting that from Tantra. You're getting that from Sufism. You're getting that from Gnosticism. You're getting that from Masonry. You're getting that from the Goetia. You're getting that from Hermeticism. You're getting that from alchemy, so on and so forth. Oh, you got that from John Dee. You got that from, they even got Crowley on here. So they go from John Dee to Crowley. So we see Crowley is even a part of this. And again, that's the whole premise of 93. Because I believe Luciferian, Jesus lover, asked what's the meaning or significance of 93. That is what 93 is, the Lima. To embody your true will and have knowledge and conversation of your holy guardian angel. 93, 93, 93. It's a greeting for all those who adhere to the Lima. So when I say 93, it is a greeting for those who adhere to the Lima, which is just Western occultism. Because you must go through Crowley. That's the thing. We see Crowley on this list. You have to go through that. That's it. So that's just acknowledging the path. So you've seen, we have spoken about all of these things through the course of this channel at some form or fashion at some point. But now we have the timeline. So now you can see where you are, where it came from, and also the pieces you are missing. So for example, if you're on the tantric side of things, you know, like, okay, if I study Tantra or Tantra, I can either go towards, from there, I can either go towards Taoism or the Egyptian mysteries or Babylonian mysteries. And I can even go towards Sufism. So that means you have 3 different paths. From Tantra, which is the sexual arts, mastering your sexual arts and rising your Kundalini or Kia via your own sexual currency, which would then lead you to the Egyptian mysteries, the Tao mysteries, and the mysteries of the Sufi. All right. So we look at these things, witchcraft and sorcery. We see that this came very late in the game, but this is what a lot of people who consider themselves dark, this is what they are about. But we see this is super late in the game. What we are trying to establish is the foundation here. So these are not the foundations. So anybody who think, you know, the witchcraft and sorcery, it's not the foundation. The foundation, as we explained earlier, is shamanism. That starts everything off, because if you master shamanism, you can hit whatever path that you choose, so that you end at your destination that they are calling the IoT. That just represents the current phase where we are now. So essentially where we are now, and you see, if we look at the arrows that point to the IoT, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 arrows. So essentially today's society is a combination of witchcraft, sorcery, and the works of who we call Austin O. Spare, which essentially was, again, you see from him, that is essentially the science of witchcraft, because witchcraft points towards that guy. So essentially his works include witchcraft. So to get the deeper understanding of witchcraft, you have to go to his works, right? So we see, and we even see the Illuminati up here. See, this is, you got the OTO, but you even got the Illuminati here. So this is what I mean. We have a true timeline of what's really going on here, where you can find yourself and see where you are on the timeline and where you need to be. Like, okay, if I'm here at the OTO, it's time to go into Crowley. Then from Crowley, you can go into the works of Austin O, which is just deeper witchcraft. So you go from the OTO to Crowley into the mysteries of witchcraft, right? So you see, you can easily find yourself here and see where you are, where you can go, and what your potential is, depending on what your preference is. So essentially, everyone is able to find their preference here. Everybody does not prefer Tantra. Some people prefer Gnosticism, but you will find whatever your preferences is. So whatever your preference is, now you can see the timeline. So if I'm a Sufi, like, okay, I'm into Sufism. Then from Sufism, it's time for me to go to the Goetia, which is the 72 Goetia, which is the 72 Jinn. So Sufism is directly connected to the Goetia. So most people know about the Goetia. See, this is what most people know about, but very few people know about the Sufism. That's a science in and of itself. So again, we are able to see. People consider this dark. You know, people talking about the 72 Goetia, we consider these people dark. But you see, the true dark goes actually into not shamanism. Yes, shamanism, of course, but Sufism. So Sufism is actually darker than the Goetic spirits. What's even darker than Sufism? Tantra. That's where we meet the 10 Mahavitas. And what's deeper than Tantra? Shamanism. So the darkest of the dark is actually shamanism, which may have been, you know, a little surprising for most people. Because again, we're more knowledgeable of these things. We may know about the Knights Templar. We may know about the Rosicrucians. We may know about the Freemasons and the Goetic spirits, and even Crowley and the Illuminati. So most people are familiar with these things further down the list. But again, once we travel up the list, it's not too many people who can break down these sciences properly. So we just say here, shamanism, Tantra, Taoism, Sufism, Gnosticism, and the Egyptian and Babylonian mysteries. These will be considered the darkest of the dark. To master one of these systems, you master one of these systems, you can go in any direction you choose. Right? Again, so hopefully, you know, this has brought clarity, you know, to those who may have been seeking clarity in any of the things that was discussed here. So let me light up this joint. Oh, sorry about that. Let me light this joint back up. I'll take another puff here. And if anyone has any questions or concerns, you can definitely document them at your leisure. So if you learned anything, you know, definitely let me know. If I opened your mind up to anything, definitely let me know. Or if I'm wasting your time, let me know. Give me 1 second here. So yeah, what's up, your mom? Let me give everybody a shout out. What's up, Gigi, Mary, your mom, of course, Luciferian Jesus lover. What's up, Tony? What's up, Jahari? Okay, now you know you always. Callie, you already know what's up. What's up, Miss Libra? What's up, Kyle? Of course, you know what's up, Isaiah. Of course, you know Lord Shu. I think I mentioned you in the beginning. So yeah, you was here before anyone else. All right. 1 second. Okay. Smoke is kind of getting in my eyes. Sorry about that. I was listening and watching actually the old tape recordings of when they secretly recorded the Bohemian Grove cremation of care. And I find it interesting how they mentioned the internal flame. Exactly. See, again, all these things are veiled. This is what they're studying. Any occult order, they're studying everything I just explained. Something on this list. Every occult order is either going back to those Egyptian mysteries, those Gnostic mysteries, those Sufi mysteries, or those shaman mysteries, or the mystery of Taoism or Tantra. There's no denying that. So the internal flame, or the inferno, the torchbearer, just represents the 9 levels of hell, where we find the archdevils, and that goes into the next thing. What about the clip-off? This is the purpose that the clip-off serve. So everything I have been reading, you can say, is embodied within the science of the clip-off, because the clip-off is all about duality. Let me actually show you guys. I'll just show you. Let me just show the imagery so you guys can see what I'm saying here. Let's see. Give me 1 second here. Let me pull up a tree of death for you guys. Here we go. Let me pull up a tree of death. So you guys can see the dualism of the tree of death, or the clip-off. Let me just type in the clip-off. No, I don't want to say clip-offic. So if we click on this one here, this should be fine. Hold on. See if I can zoom in. Hold on. Hold on here. Let me just do it like this. Oh no, I'll just go to the website. I be trying not to go to these websites, but I'll just go. Cause I don't know what may open. So, I try not to click too many links, cause I have no idea, it may be something crazy that open. Then the whole video get pulled down, and, I wasn't even looking for that. So I just try not to, open too many personal links. But here's the tree of death, nonetheless. So if we look at the top of the tree of death, we see 2 deities there. Those deities are called Satan and Moloch, the split mind. So if we study the tree of life, the crown of the tree of life is called Kether. Kether would be symbolized as what we call heaven. So our idea of heaven is Kether, which is the top of the tree of life. But the top of the tree of death, you have 2 deities. There's not just one ruler, there's 2 rulers. And they don't always get along. But this embodies that dualistic mind that we have explained. See, now that I have explained these things, now it will make more sense, as opposed to if it was not explained. Somebody who's just looking at this tree and don't know nothing about what I just explained, they're going to see this and not know nothing about it. It's not going to click. Because again, this is more about Sufism. The reason I say this is really about Sufism, because you have jinn. If we look at certain spirits on this tree, a lot of these spirits are jinn. They come from the jinn, and of course the jinn are the goetic spirits. There's a lot of goetic spirits in the tree of death. So if we understand what predates the goetic spirits, as we just learned, it's Sufism. So you can say the clip-off is a form of Sufism, even though it's not any Arabic language. So you can say it's a translation of the system of Sufism without, without the terminology and all the fluff, which is what we want. We want to remove the terminology and the fluff so that we can understand the mathematics and science. So you see, all this is strictly mathematics and science. So if you don't know about the tree of life, then the tree of death isn't going to make any sense. The tree of life is an introduction into the tree of death, which is more complex. So, because if I bring up a tree of life, we're going to look how simple the tree of life is versus the tree of death. So I just showed you the tree of death. So let me type in the tree of life and just see how simple it is, so you can see the differences. Well, actually, let me type in the Kabbalah, because the tree of life, goes to many different sciences. So let me specify and say the Kabbalah. So we look at the Kabbalah here. Well, hold on, you literally will have images like this. Sometimes you have images like that with nothing on it. And sometimes you have this. Sometimes you see Dolph, sometimes you don't. In this particular example, you see Dolph and you see the Hebrew letters. But you see essentially how simple this diagram is versus what we just saw in the Tree of Death. So it goes to show which one is older and which one is newer. And while the mainstream is all about Kabbalah, they're all about the Tree of Life. But they do not acknowledge the Tree of Death. Because again, there are some Kabbalists that don't even have the Dolph, Sephirah. For example, this completely Hebrew Kabbalah doesn't even acknowledge Dolph. So you see no Dolph here between Kether and Tabarif, the 13th path of the priestess. So you don't even see it. So this is 10 Sephiras or 10 orbs instead of 11. But when we study the clip off, you have that extra Sephirah called Dolph. So this is the mainstream. Then the underground will be here. So you see a lot more going on here. So essentially this is the chaos. Because it's ordered. See, what we see is order. So we don't look at the clip off and see a bunch of madness. We actually see a hierarchy. This is a hierarchy. That means they go by rank. There is a order to the madness or the supposed chaos. Because chaos is all about, once again, order and evolution. So if we're talking about order and evolution, this is what we see here. So even though it's called the Tree of Death, we see order and evolution. Because it's teaching you about the dualistic mind. Right? So this is the sciences. Sorry about that. So I guarantee you're not going to find a simpler breakdown than what I have showed you here. Anything else is just going to be unnecessarily complex. So if we're talking about the simplest way to understand these things, I've just shown you the simplest way without making anything overly complex. Because again, we get lost with the terminology and the religious mythology and so on and so forth. We get lost in all that. So it's just strictly mathematics and science. So the last thing I want to do here, let me actually take out the pen here. Let me actually activate some penmanship. So we'll do a live example here. So let me actually, let's see here. What do I need to open up? I need to open up this. All right. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is just break down Lucifer, because that's who we brought forth anyway, right? So let's actually just utilize the mathematics and the science to see what we're really speaking about here. So if I write the word Lucifer, for example, hold on, let me pick a different brush. Hold on. So I get 4. Let me verify. Because again, there's a long way to do this and there's a short way to do this. So hold on, I get 11. So hold on, I made an error in my calculations. When I type it in, I get 11. So let me do this over. At some point I made a mistake here. So let's do this one more time. So essentially 3, L is the 12th letter, U is the 21st letter, C is the 3rd letter, I is the 9th letter, F is the 8th letter, E is the 5th letter, and R is the 18th letter. So essentially we get 3, 3, 3, 8, 5. Because obviously the 9 goes back to itself. And again, that brings another 9. Which then brings us to the 8 and 5. Okay, hold on here. So why am I seeing something different? I see what's going on. I'm putting 8. This is H. I see my error. That's what I did wrong. So I was putting F as 8 when F should have been 6. So that's why I was 2 degrees over. So instead of it being 2, it was 4. All right. Sorry about that. So that's why I wanted to double check. So if I did make any error in my calculation, then it could be corrected. So essentially Lucifer breaks down to 11, aka 2. All right. We understand 11 is the master seer. Then we understand 2 is the moon. So we have a 11 here. You can call that the dark sun, or the black sun. The black or dark sun, then the lunar currency of the moon. So essentially we have dark particles with lunar waves. Okay. So the 11/2 is a combination of dark particles and lunar waves. We just call it moon waves. Moon waves, sun particles. We just call it sun particles. Put the dark in parentheses. The dark sun particles or the sun particles. So if we understand, based on everything we just read, everything is about dualism, then we can understand why Lucifer breaks down to a double solar energy, which then is reduced to a lunar energy. So you can say Lucifer is a combination of not just the solar force, but also the lunar force, expressing itself in one combined expression. So let's take this a step further. Because Lucifer is Latin for Venus. So we want to get to the origins of things here. So the word itself, Lucifer, is Latin. Translation of Venus, which we know is a Roman goddess. Okay. So if Lucifer is known as the torchbearer, And Venus is known as the morning sun. Because Venus is the brightest planet. So we see this is just all astrology. A sense of the brightest planet that we can see. So if Venus is a Latin, if Venus is a Roman goddess, which I believe Rome was actually using the Latin numerals, I believe. It's all Latin essentially. But let's keep it simple here. If Lucifer is the Latin translation of Venus, which we know as the brightest planet or the morning sun, then this whole story of Lucifer being the torch bearer is no coincidence. So essentially the story of Lucifer is the story of Venus, the planet, the planetary influence. We also know that the planet Venus resonates with the heart chakra. So we can say the heart center. So if Venus is the brightest planet, the illuminator or the Illuminati, so if Venus is the Illuminati, who are supposedly the torch bearers, who operate from the heart center or the heart chakra. Most of us, when we think about the heart chakra, we're thinking about love. So most people, heart chakra is love. It has something to do with love because it's Venus. So essentially most people's translations, heart chakra equals love or the love force, to channel the love force. So essentially you channel the love force through your heart chakra. So just call it love force channel. So this is the average person's understanding. But again, we're going into the deeper mysteries. So if we are going into the deeper mysteries of Venus in this case, then we are going beyond love. Now we're going into the heart consciousness or the heart intelligence, the intelligence of the heart. And what I say the intelligence of the heart is because, as we know, or we may not know, the Egyptians or the people of Kemet, when they were going through the mummification process, they removed all of the organs out of the body except the heart. The heart essentially will be the only organ that remains inside of the body, which then takes us to the heart scale. Is your heart lighter than a feather? So, according to the Egyptians, the people of Kemet, when you die, your heart has to be weighed on a scale against a feather. And if your heart weighed more than the feather, you will be devoured essentially you will have to reincarnate. So now we're going into the true essence of what the heart intelligence is. So from the ancient perspective, the heart becomes the bridge to heaven. Because it is your heart that will open up the gates of heaven or hell. Because it is the heart that has to be weighed against the feather, which we know, of course, is symbolic to, did you leave this world with any type of weight on your heart? If you leave this world with any type of weight on your heart, you are bound to repeat, because you will want to come back. So most people who reincarnate want to come back. They want to reincarnate. Why? Because they got too much weight on their chest. So if your heart is lighter than a feather, when it's your time to go, you're ready to get the fuck on. You don't care nothing about this place anymore. Once your time is up, you're ready for the next chapter. Then that becomes, once again, your bridge to heaven. So essentially, our ability to get into what we call heaven or hell, these metaphors, is based upon the heart intelligence. That is the only thing that remains in the body. But again, beyond that, because of course people are not doing that now, but this is the reason why it was done. It is through the heart intelligence. The heart intelligence is different than the brain intelligence, which is what most people know about. But again, the Egyptians, or the people of Kemet, removed the brain when a person died. So the brain was taken out through the nose. So they removed your brain through your nose. So the brain gets tossed aside. The only organ of any significance after you die is your heart. Yes, this is what it means to have a pure heart. And that's why the whole Jesus figure is always pointing to the heart. Even in the occult, for those who have studied deep into the occult, you need a pure heart to exercise magic at all. Magic is exercised through the purity of your heart. And again, a pure heart does not mean, or pure does not equal, you can say, sinless. Instead, pure just means your true self, or your true will. We just put the true will. So you being pure is you exercising your true will. That's what it means to have a pure heart. You have enough power or strength in your heart to manifest your true will, because that comes through the heart force. So through the heart, you are able to manifest your true will. And if you manifest your true will, when death approaches, you will be ready to go, because you have exercised your true will. See, most people are exercising their will, or as we call free will. Most people are exercising their free will, but free will is different than your true will. Free will is just, I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. But again, that has nothing to do with being pure of heart. The only way to be pure of heart is to manifest your true will. So this is what purifies the heart consciousness. This is what opens up the bridge to heaven, because you have manifested your true will, which creates a special type of currency, as we always speak about. When you are living in accordance to your true will, you manifest a special type of currency, which can then be traded at the time of your death. Traded in death. Maybe I'm going a little bit too deep. The currency you build up by exercising your true will is how you pay your toll to heaven or hell. Toll to heaven or hell. It requires a toll. It requires a cost. It requires a price. You must be pure of heart. You have come here to exercise your true will. So if you do not exercise your true will in favor of your free will, then you will reincarnate. So anybody who's talking about free will and exercising their free will, they will reincarnate. Because exercising your free will doesn't do anything. It just means you can do what you do, but that has nothing to do with why you're here on this planet. Exercising your free will has nothing to do with why you're here. Has nothing to do with your destiny and or your fate. Your true will connects you with your destiny. Hence your bridge to heaven. Your bridge to heaven is your destiny. So because of this, our destiny is to align with our true will. Then the free will becomes irrelevant because you have no desire to exercise free will because you understand the frivolousness of it. It's frivolous. Just, okay, I have free will, which means nothing at all. But this is what people honor above anything else, because it gives them a false sense of freedom. Put false freedom. Free will equals false freedom. You think you free because you can do whatever you want to do, but you are still bound to your destiny. We cannot escape our destiny, or as they call fate. We cannot escape it. So you can exercise your free will all you want. You're going to eventually have to deal with your fate. So our fate is the result of whether we exercise our true will or free will. That's the difference between destiny and fate. Destiny is exercising your true will. Then the fate is the result of that, whether you did it or not. So the mathematical equation you take with you, did I exercise my free will? Is my biggest concern free will, or is my biggest concern true will? Because if your biggest concern is true will, then everything that has been previously spoken about will make perfect sense, and that's how you purify your heart consciousness. You don't purify your heart utilizing your free will. You exercising your free will will not purify your heart. Just because you can do what you want to do is not going to purify your heart. It is only through the alignment of your destiny and the living out of your true will, that is the only way to alter your fate. Because you can say our fate is set in stone. But remember, as we spoke about chaos, even the things that are set in stone can be altered. And this is what alchemy is. Alchemy allows us to alter things that otherwise could not be altered. So essentially, this is what magic is. Magic taps us into this true will, because we must access chambers that otherwise are off limits. So this is why we have to use magic in the first place, to access the chambers of the mind that are off limits. And when you access those chambers that are off limits, again, this is how we purify the heart. Okay. Purify the heart via true will. But here's the kicker. As we know, everything requires a cost. So the cost of exercising your true will, you must give up your free will. You must surrender your free will. Willingly. You have to willingly submit your free will in order to gain access to the true will. You cannot do both at the same time. Because yes, we all have free will. But again, this has nothing to do with the true will. So in order to fulfill the true will, you must give up your free will. Free will must no longer be a thing you strive for or care about. But we know that the mortals of this earth, this is all they care about. But you see, we can put people in the proper context. Anybody who was all free will, you already know what they're about. Anybody on the true will, again, you can see this. This is obvious. You can meet a person and know exactly who's who. This is very obvious. Just by their conversation, what they're doing, what they're not doing, you can very easily tell who's what end of the scale that they're on, what they prefer and what they choose to do. Because most of the time they're going to stay, if they are all about free will, they don't want to hear nothing about this. And if they're all about the true will, they don't want to hear nothing about this. So it's very easy to notice. So you need to give up your free will and embody your true will in order to purify your heart, which then manifests your bridge to heaven and or hell, the inferno, depending on which direction you want to go in. You just say Kabbalah, clip off. Either you're going towards the Kabbalah or you're going towards the clip off. The choice is yours. So with that, I bear peace. 93, 93, 93.